How's it going, everyone? Doc here with Eyes Wide Shot Gaming, and we are back at it again with Remnant 2, covering a brand new build we put together for a brand new DLC, The Dark Horizon. Stick around. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date on all of your Remnant 2 news, info, builds, and breakdowns, as well as many other games. So we are here just over a day after release of the Dark Horizon DLC for Remnant 2, and it seems like we have stumbled, tripped, and cascaded ourselves down the build river yet again. And we want to share with you our creation revolving around the Dark Matter Gauntlets. Let's begin by breaking down our archetypes, starting with our primary archetype, Challenger. Our prime perk on it is Die Hard, which upon receiving fatal damage we become invulnerable for 3 seconds and regenerate 100% of our max health. While this is on cooldown, we also gain 1 stack of Bulwark. Our damage perk, Close Quarters, also grants us 35% increase to all damage to enemies within 10 meters. And since we are focusing around a melee build, everything we fight will be right up in our face. Aside from the damage increase, we also get a boost of 5% to our critical chance. Our next focus should be on our utility perk. Since we are melee based, the perk Powerlifter will reduce both our stamina cost for each weight bracket and our stamina regeneration delay by a whopping 50%. With this archetype, we are running the Juggernaut skill. We will become nearly unstoppable, gaining 3 stacks of Bulwark, 15% movement, melee speed, and reduced stamina cost, as well as increases our melee damage by 50%. This effect will last 32.5 seconds with a 48-second cooldown. For our secondary archetype, we are running the brand new Warden class. The damage perk Galvanize will increase all damage we deal by 25% and grant another 5% to critical chance. On top of it all, the team perk will grant us yet another stack of Bulwark and increase incoming healing effectiveness by 10%. As a failsafe, our utility perk Contingency will grant us a shield for 28.8% of our max health for 10 seconds when our health drops below 25%. And finally, our Relic perk Energize will grant us another shield for 28.8% of our max health on Relic use. For the archetype skill, we are running the Drone Shield, which deploys a shield drone with 100 energy reserves to follow and protect us or a teammate we set them on. The target also gains increased damage reduction by 10%. If we are not at max shield, the drone will consume a quarter of its energy to grant a shield 9.2% of our max health once every 2 seconds. Compared to the other 2 Warden skills, which are healing and an assault drone, this seems to be the most useful and versatile of them all. Let's take a quick look at the decorations on our neck and fingers, starting with our amulet, the Matriarch's Insignia. This amulet will increase our melee damage by 35% and cause all successful melee attacks to restore 10 stamina, allowing us to continuously use our melee abilities in battle. For our first ring, we have the new Custodian's Bastion. This ring will increase our armor by 1 per 2% of active shield, a max armor bonus of 100 being available. But we are seeking more so in the region of 50 to 70 at most. Next up, we have the Meteorite Shard Ring. This will increase our encumbrance by 50 while simultaneously increase our unarmed damage by 50%. And since our melee weapon of choice is considered to be unarmed damage, we reap this buff happily. For our third ring, we have the Fey Warrior Ring, giving us a static increase to melee damage by 15%. Nothing more, nothing less. And finally, our fourth ring is the Haymaker's Ring. This ring will increase our melee damage by 0.2% for every 1 point of armor encumbrance, which leads us to wear the Heavy Letos armor, bringing our melee damage increase up by 29%. Now that our jewelry is out of the way, let's take a look at our ranged weapons and finally, our bread and butter, the meat and potatoes, our melee weapon. For our secondary ranged weapon, we are using another brand new DLC weapon called Repair Tool. 30 damage, 11 rounds per second, and a massive 150 magazine. This handgun will fire a stream of nanomachines, dealing damage to enemies or healing to allies for 3% of their max health per second. With this weapon, we equip the mod Harvester Bots, which is also a new DLC mod. It releases 5 Harvester Bots for 30 seconds that seek an enemy to siphon, granting allies within 30 meters a stack of Drain. We gain 1.03% of base damage dealt as lifesteal per stack, max stacks being 5. The mutator on it we chose is Feedback to generate 20% single charge value as passive power over 10 seconds. Our primary weapon is the Monolith Long Gun. 33 damage, 12 rounds per second, and a mag size of 80. This gun fires concentrated sand, and sustained primary fire and sandstorm hits apply exposed, which allows the target to receive 15% additional damage from all sources. The mod that's already on this weapon is Sandstorm, which launches a sphere of loam creating a 5-meter swirling storm of sand that seeks to center itself on an enemy and deal 168.8 elemental damage per second, lasting 15 seconds. With this, our mutator is Spellweaver, which increases this weapon's mod damage and mod generation by 15% for 10 seconds when activating a skill, and at level 10, activating this weapon's mod reduces skill cooldown by 1% for every 100 mod power spent, which equates to 15% skill cooldown. Finally, we get to the main event, the Dark Matter Gauntlets. Sitting at 150 damage, the gauntlets harness the power of a neutron star and a black hole. That sounds serious already. And when merged, cosmic forces are unleashed. The module already equipped to this melee weapon is Kilonova, which when charged, melee empowers the gauntlets for 15 seconds, increasing standard melee damage by 25% and causes charged melee attacks to release an 8-meter penetrating blast. While empowered, performing a charged melee attack during a neutral backdash gathers power for up to 5 seconds, then fire a darkness beam that deals 620.5 melee damage every half a second for 5 seconds. The mutator, after a lot of debate, is Dervish. This increases melee damage by 40% for 10 seconds when activating a skill, and at level 10, after dealing 350 base melee damage, reduces skill cooldown by 3%, which means every time we hit 350 damage, our skills cool down quicker and quicker. The Relic Heart we chose is the Shielded Heart, which grants a shield for 115% of max health and lasts for 20 seconds or until removed by damage. This is just as a backup for if and or when our Warden skill is in cooldown and we need a melee damage buff from the shields that affect our Custodian's Bastion ring. On our left, we have our health sitting at 135.5, stamina at 130, armor without shield impacting it sitting at 294.6, which when we have a full shield will be up to 372.1, and our weight at 145. Along with our traits on the right, where we evenly spread all of our points, main focus being on Barkskin, Fortify, Gifted, and Expertise. If we were to change anything, we would swap Regrowth for Shadeskin, but that's dealer's choice. Now don't worry, we didn't forget. The Fragments now are on their own separate tab, and our main focus revolves around melee critical chance, melee damage, and armor. This is a new mechanic in the game and we are still navigating it, so this is what we are currently running under Prisms, but that is subject to change with time. Now let's take a quick look at how this build works in the Ward. As you can see, we run our shield drone, charge our melee up, use our Juggernaut skill, and load up the Darkness Beam, which dishes out an insane peak of 36,000 damage per second and calibrating out at around 9 to 10,000 damage per second. Now that you have the entire basis of the build, let's take a quick glance at how this build stacks up against some bosses on Apocalypse. And as always, thank you for watching, Thank you for listening, and until next time, so long.